responsible for you. Welcome back, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It is Wednesday, February 4th. We are shifting gears. We're now working on corrections. We're working on House Bill. Well, the door is closed. We are working on House Bill 635, and we've had some preliminary testimony from corrections, and we had some questions about more of the data of how the money's flowing, how many people, how many individuals. And we have DOC with us today. So Kristen, thanks for having me. You could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Hey, Kristen Calver, Deputy Commissioner of Corrections. Thanks for having me back for round 2 of supervision fees. We updated the presentation from last time, so the slides I'll skip to are on page 7, and it looks like this. Tax offset.
We don't have that too.
We have that?
If you send that to me.
Yeah, you should have it, but I'll send it again.
I think
Kristen sent it to you this time. Do you want me to pause a moment?
Tate is failing. Tate, come on. You know what it is. You know what's going on. We're juggling our schedules so much because people can't come in at the last minute, and then we gotta juggle. You know, the scheduling would be so easy if they all came in when we wanted them to.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so easy.
I think you're the cause of.
I think so. I think you are. Absolutely.
Received.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if I have.
And then we try to schedule, then we have to bump people. And so let's give Tate a second section here. Did you get it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you're in the process of submitting it?
I did.
Okay.
You want me to wait for them out there?
Sure.
I don't hear the printer buzzing yet. Oh, there it is.
No, Tate. Just give it back to us.
Posted as well. Thank you. I don't mean to rush you today.
And hopefully the printer doesn't get jammed, and hopefully the printer works.
This is the most compelling testimony I've
No,
heard.
we're waiting for.
Bring in Levy.
Yep.
Get a laugh out of our friend. That's what matters.
Why don't you get started? I
Okay.
think we'll get.
Okay, it's up there behind me. So you wanted to learn more about tax offset, number of folks we submit, kind of what that debt looks like. Just as a reminder, the tax offset program, we submit a certification each year to the tax department, and they help us collect those supervision fees through garnishment of income tax returns. The table on the top of that sheet is by fiscal year back to 2021. It has the total individuals that meet the threshold to be able to be submitted to the tax department, which is 90 days or more in arrears and $45 or more. We've listed in that middle column, individuals removed. Those are folks that either have an incorrect or no date of birth or social security number. So we can't prove that debt is tied to that person or the data is incorrect. So we remove it. And then the last column, total submitted, are the total number of unique individuals that are submitted each year. The outstanding, yeah,
So this is a total in FY 25 of 9,879 folks who are in arrears more than 90 days. And this was submitted to the tax department for them to go forward, like garnishing of wages,
not of wages, of tax returns.
tax refund.
Yes.
And the 9,879 is out of how many people?
That would be the 10,182 is the total number of people that would qualify for us to submit. So there is probably a little bit more if they owe less than $45 or are up to date within 90 days.
So there'd be a little bit.
There'd be a little bit more, not
Maybe
a huge amount.
200 more.
I would think that's a reasonable, yeah, more in the 200 range.
So most people are not paying.
And Patients,
90 days or more in arrears and $45.
oh, okay, so
So,
it's
combo.
simply that.
yeah, that's it. And this number grows, so it's not the same as our current census because the funds are not removed from their account once they're discharged from probation or whatever status they're on in the field. It stays with them.
So if it stays with that. Well, now, so if it's reported to the tax department, does it finally get paid through their income tax forms when they do their?
Yeah, if they file or if they don't, we're in that kind of prioritization list where other things, other payments might be taken before
Like
us.
child support,
Child support, maybe property taxes, things
so
like
they
that.
may not have anything left to give.
Correct. Yeah.
Because their refund, if they have a refund, it would go towards first child support, arrears and property taxes, and then whatever's left for this. So that means you're not really getting much.
Not much.
And you said it already, but what was the lacking information why you couldn't? They didn't have a,
Yep, if we don't have their date of birth, their social security number, or the information is incorrect.
oh, I'm sorry for my ignorance. How do they, if they don't have any of that information, how do we even know that they know it?
Well, we don't submit it through those two identifiers. It's just based on the information we receive from the court and the information the individual gives us.
Some folks do not know where they were born. Some folks don't know. They
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes there are data entry issues that we have to chase down as well.
But maybe they have a social security number, but they have no clue where to get the information. And you have to have proof of identification. So it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
So if they're carrying this debt, owing of fees, does this hurt them in other arenas of life?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't get submitted to like their credit report, for example, or anything else.
So then how much money is made off this? What's the
Not much.
profitability? Or
Yeah.
it sounds like there's no profitability, sounds like, but anyway.
Well, there's no profitability. I don't know if profit is the goal, but I think back a couple slides on page 5. We do have on there the amount we've collected in the year
Oh, okay.
to give you an
yeah, so-
idea.
So there's a couple $100,000 or $300,000.
Yes, out of 3.5 million we have currently.
But it's going down every year.
What we collect is going down, yes.
Yeah, huh?
So you,
Okay.
you have 3.5 million out there
Mhm.
that's accumulated over the years,
Yes.
but it has not been collected.
Right.
It's not a one-year thing, it's accumulated
Right.
over the
Mhm.
years. And what you have received today, each fiscal year it goes down. In FY 20, you receive 129,000
Yep.
gross, but after operating expenses, it came to 400. It's in the previous document.
Yeah. Any other day.
What they gave us the last time they were here.
Oh,
You gotta file. You gotta file. For us folks that don't file, you can find it in file, right? So you used to receive about 400,000, now you're down to net. If you got an operating, how come your operating costs, expenses have gone up so much? Because they were 3,000, 4,000, 7,000, now they're 20,000, what?
We added the electronic payment portal to give folks another option to submit payment, but that came with a cost.
But you're not increasing the payment. So you made an attempt by investing in an electronic payment system to see if you could make it easier for folks to pay. And it's really not paying off.
annual cost, or is that some cost? I mean, do we want to continue to pay for that service, or have we bought it and now we own it?
It's a contract that the state has that we just kind of latched onto, so it's not a separate cost that the state incurs. It's by use. So if nobody uses it, we don't pay. If 100 people use it, we pay based on
Oh,
how it was.
So for us, that's why, for FY 26, will it be at 20,000 as well?
Probably.
So it's not a one-time payment.
No. It's by payment.
So if we were to do as the bill says, which is repeal the supervisory fees, would the department be saving that 20,000 operating expense?
Yeah, we wouldn't utilize that for anything else. So all the operating expenses go away along with
With that 283,000 that you're making on it.
yeah.
So you're down to 263 that you lose. Because you have 20,000 you've saved.
Right.
So do you, what are you anticipating for fiscal year 25 to be reported to the tax department? The numbers that you've shown on this sheet here. So in 24, there were, total submitted 9,453. In 25, there was 9,879. I'm assuming that includes the 9,453 from the previous year.
Yes. Yeah, that's our total for each year.
About 400. So every year it's going up. And they're still not paying it off. So it's adding work to the tax department.
Yeah, it adds work to the tax department, to finance and management, the treasurer's office. It's
It's
all,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all, part of reconciliation and maintaining the vision system. I think we're the only department that utilizes the billing module in the way that we do for this program. So there's extra work with other departments as well.
So the question is, are we gaining anything by charging supervisory fees? And if we are gaining, is it so minimal that it's creating more work on the different department ends than what we're really getting? That's what we need to balance here as a committee.
I'm also stuck on the philosophical, should we be charging people for their own supervision? Fundamental question for me as well.
Well, I mean, I would agree with Troy. Shocking? No, not at all.
It happens.
We agree a lot. But also like when you're looking at the amount of money, it still is 260, whatever it is, $1,000. But our fees are going up from 3,000 whatever to 20,000, and we're collecting less money. Well, like, you gotta look at that too, so there's so many different parts to it, other than, the philosophical thing, which is, there's things people should pay for, and there's things that we are supposed to be providing. So I definitely would side of my dear friend on that particular issue.
So this fee is not a condition of release. And the commissioner can collect, is able to collect up to the amount of $30 per month. And it's for folks who are on probation, furlough, supervised community sentence, which we don't have very much of that, and parole. And then you have directives and policies that govern the collection, but you don't have any rules that were promulgated through the LCAR.
The one rule is that we can use a private collection agency, but we do not due to the high cost.
Of the private agencies.
Yes, we have these three other options that we're utilizing.
So if we were to do this, folks, you need the bill in front of you, so
Yep.
you can see the language, page 3. It's really to wipe the slate clean. And if we were to do this, section B, that the department would forgive all outstanding fees and eliminate all references to outstanding fees. How would that play out in your world? Would that be difficult? How would you achieve that?
The way we would consult with finance, certainly in the treasurer's office, to make sure we don't throw any of the general ledger out of whack, but I think largely it would be through transactions in the vision system. We have a process right now where we write off debt for folks that pass away. And I think a similar process could be used once we're able to confirm that with finance. There are a number of folks that have paid ahead. I think there's what we call on account of around $50,000. And we would refund that to folks, and we refund payments, overpayments to folks. I don't want to say frequently, but as a regular course of account maintenance, if someone establishes that they qualify for a waiver. So it would be probably a combination of those two things, updating internal policies, and things of that nature. And so work with the rule, I'll have to consult with our general counsel on that process. I'm not very familiar with it, but.
It doesn't sound like a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's difficult. I think it's time consuming, and that just would take a little time to turn around, but I don't think.
But there would be a sunset, there would be like some time, 6 months or a year or something like that
Yeah.
to get to the end of that, right? Yeah.
So what would you do in the meantime, if it takes a period of time of 6 months? When this becomes effective July 1st, you would stop charging the fee.
We would stop charging the fee. I think we would make an effort to notify folks
Prior to July 1st,
prior to July 1st. Don't send payments, etc.
James Munchor.
Just the other thing for anybody that wants to think about it is, I know we did just discuss this the other day. If I was in Las Vegas, I certainly would bet everything I have on the fact that we are never going to see this $3.5 million. So when we're considering whether or not to write it off, you're not getting it. I would be willing to bet very seriously
Right.
that we are not seeing this money. So for people who are money oriented, you're like, well, we got $3.5 million. $3.5 million is no good if you're never going to go in your pocket. And it just never will be captured ever. That's just reality.
Troy?
Right now, the bill is written as shall take effect on passage. Is a July
Okay.
1st better than that?
I think July 1st would be better as far as operationalizing it. We could certainly stop billing people on passage. I'm not sure how that language would really work, but yeah, I think preemptively knowing something like that was coming, we could work within that. And then maybe we could provide updates to joint justice oversight or something of that nature on where we're at.
So in terms of section 2 on D, I mean, this is a condition. I believe it's probably a condition now. The failure to pay would not constitute a violation. That's a current.
It is.
So why is it included in terms of this section 2? Is there a reason? Because you're saying that in section. John?
Yeah, John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel, it's just a safety mechanism in the event that this is considered something that would constitute a violation. It's ensuring that it doesn't do that. But if the practice is that they don't, you consider it superfluous, but it doesn't hurt to have it. It's just a clear statement that it would.
Good to know.
Especially when we deal with TLC.
So in C, you're gonna cease all efforts to collect the outstanding fees, including wage garnishment, which you don't really do, or tax set-off debt collection. And you'd coordinate with any agency made party to the supervisory fees. So that's when you talked about, you'd reach out to the finance department, and the tax department. Good. Other questions?
I have a couple. Would they be triggered by the balance of the presentation?
Yeah, I can keep going.
Yeah.
If folks would like, so page 8. That provides a good visual on the staff cost. I think even though it's not funded by the supervision fee program, you all wanted to see what the other general fund costs were to operate the program. You can see in about FY20, that's where the kind of switch happened. We started collecting less and the staff cost kept growing, staying the same and then growing towards the tail end of 24.
So wait, yeah, so I'm not following something. So it's costing $540,000 to collect $300,000?
Yeah, and I think important distinction is the supervision fee fund does not fund these positions, so they're doing other work, but we made an estimate of the amount of time that they're spending on the program. And this includes central business office staff, the probation and parole officers who are doing the assessments and getting folks signed up, as well as the admins who help us coordinate on account maintenance. And that's detailed on the next slide and kind of snapshot.
So,
Break it down.
I mean, so to that end, we're saying that there's almost $540,000 associated with staff expense for this program. So would there be some sort of reduction in force somewhere if the program were not to exist?
I would say no. The percentage of field time, we estimated about 5% of the probation and parole officers spend working on this program. They certainly have other work to do, including enhanced field checks, compliance with the 1115 waiver, all these kind of additional programs that have been added. Same goes for the business office. Anytime we add a new program in the field or facility, there's also a back-end business office fee.
So it seems like this is a positive in a way to lighten up their load because they're getting the 1115 waiver stuff thrown at them now. And it's like, and added on. So this could be something that can be sloughed off.
But and this was asked by another member last time you were in, but I'll ask again.
Sure.
Does the administration have a position on this?
Yeah, I think the official position, it wasn't submitted as part of the policy or the governor's recommended budget. And so from that end, we can't support it, but willing to keep providing you all the details so that you can make.
We get it.
I know.
We get it.
You already,
We get it.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
did you already indicate, did we already ask about why it dropped after fiscal year 19? What's the
Yeah.
cause of this?
I think I heard, yeah. COVID, I think, was a big indicator. Folks lost jobs, businesses closed. The work types that were available to people during that time dropped off. Folks are paying more for healthcare, more for food. So just a number of factors that have come into play for this population.
Cost of living has gone up. So also, I remember the testimony when you were here last in terms of the cost for staffing. Though they are spending a portion of their time administering the supervisory fees, could be the business office, could be P&P, whatever. Doesn't mean that by doing away with these supervisory fees, you get rid of people. It just frees them up to doing other jobs that need to get done.
Right.
That's the offset here. So instead of a P&P officer spending time doing shuffling paperwork, they're out there actually working with folks who are under supervision. Particularly if we expand the pretrial supervision program, that goes right to your P&P office to monitor folks who have not been adjudicated, they have not been convicted, they've been released on conditions, but it's DOC that would be supervising them under the pretrial supervision program. And then you throw in the 1115 waiver, which is working prior to a person's release with their case manager, case worker within DOC, and then making that transition to the community. So this frees up their time if they didn't have to do the shuffling of paper.
Mhm.
And it must be pretty discouraging for folks out in the field that they're doing this work and then knowing that the person's not paying it. It's pretty demoralizing,
Mhm.
I would think.
Fruitless.
Kevin?
And one more, did we already identify where the $15 a month came from? That amount.
Yes.
Yeah, that was established by a previous commissioner. I think we had up to 30 and kind of split the difference. I don't know the reasoning behind that.
Flexibility in the
Yeah.
law, where it says that the commissioner, it's a responsibility to collect a fee up to 30,000, and then it could be in your policy and directives. In terms of what the commissioner decides, it's the commissioner that's responsible, if you look at the law.
But in the law, who came up with the 30?
Yeah, where did,
That was done legislatively for up to 30. And this was put in place in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Early 2000. So the discretion of how much is up to the commissioner. So you try to hit the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Thinking where people could afford it. So $15 was chosen. How long has the $15 been there?
I think we started assessing across the board in around 2007.
For $15?
Yeah, for 15, and that's when.
The economics in 2007 was different than it is now.
Mhm.
but did we really think the $30 was gonna cover the cost?
I don't think we looked at it in terms of covering the cost.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. How do we come up with a figure, but that's okay,
It's
2,000
a legislative process.
was a.
Basically,
That's why this leave that stand.
It was probably trying to weigh what folks were thinking that put the law in place in terms of what folks who are being supervised could afford.
Yeah.
Instead of putting in a set dollar amount, they were very clear it was up to a certain amount. So there was discretion there.
Yeah.
And it could change over time. We could put in up to $100. Doesn't mean you're gonna get more money.
Well, we're not getting 15.
And not that I'm advocating for this at all, because I'm not. But the only way you're getting the 15 is if there's some kind of punishment tied to it. And that's not gonna happen. And I don't think most people in this room advocate for that. So like, if there's nothing tied to stuff, we just don't do things. It's human nature. So you're not seeing this one.
It's true.
So what's the thinking? The only change that we talked about on the bill itself is changing the effective date. Where are we on the rest of the bill?
Good.
Yeah, look at some other sides, but they're not, they don't require DOC being there. I can speak about it. So philosophically, how is this different than somebody who's convicted of a DUI and has to pay for crash? Should they not have to pay for crash?
That would be, I think, a condition of their sentence.
They should have to pay. for
This is
crash.
not a condition of one sentence. But I think if they've been convicted of DUI, going through a crash course is a requirement of their sentence. That's set by the court. This is not set by the court.
It's still punitive.
Philosophically, why not? That's what I'm hearing you ask. Philosophically, why shouldn't they like required for DUI? Philosophically.
I don't
understand we
know.
can't get blood out of a tube.
I don't know if they have to pay for, do they have to pay for, I don't know that answer.
Absolutely. But I'm not necessarily adversarial to it, but I would like to see an effective date of July 1 of 27, unless the administration is good with one for July 1 of 26.
Why 27?
Because otherwise you just created a $300,000 hole now that needs to be
And that's why
corrected.
27.
Correct, because we've established that the overhead, aside from the $20,000 of administrative expenses, isn't going away. It's just going to be reallocated in other areas. But if it were July 1 of 27, then that leaves a whole other budget year for it to be
Pre-plan.
correct.
So that would be a conversation that you folks should probably have with Trevor. That if we did this on July 1st of this year, the impact of 263,000 loss, what would that have? On the DOC budget?
Can I get DOC's thoughts on that?
As far as effective date versus the budget gap, or?
Yeah, like how easy or hard would that 263 or whatever it is?
I think many years ago, it might have been easier. I think we're just facing a lot more budget pressures at the moment, so it'd be hard to absorb that amount. If I'm really honest.
Thank you.
So the 1 year would give you some buffer there.
Yeah.
If it's affected in 27.
So they're gonna ask and then come back to us and. we can
Yeah,
discuss
they
it.
can ask,
Yeah.
but what other concerns? So the question is, does anyone know, do they have to pay for crash?
Mhm.
I don't know if they do, and I think we need to find out about.
Can I
Just
just
to make an
comment on that?
assumption, but this is being supervised. They're not being supervised under crash as part of their conditions.
And they're paying for a product that directly ties to their offense. That's not the case with the supervision fee. If the state decides to put somebody on probation for a furlough, and that requires supervision, I think it's the obligation of the state to provide that supervision. Again, I've never paid my supervisors for the honor of supervising me.
The honor.
That being said, right?
Yeah.
But if I get a DUI and a reasonable sort of consequence to that behavior is an educational course, I can justify that
Mhm.
much more easily than I can a supervision fee. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you're being supervised because there's been some sort of behavior that requires that you be supervised. So they're very similar in that regard. And it's a service that the state is providing.
And the supervision is almost like parental oversight to encourage them to make the right steps, whether to get to their
That's not
counselor
how
or
I
get to the
classify it.
medical or to get to.
No, that's not how I would classify it.
But with that said, I'm not necessarily opposed to the whole thing, except for the timing.
Yeah.
Unless the parties that would need to deal with the deficit are okay with something on a more accelerated schedule.
So the supervisory fees, are they for people who have done time in jail only?
No, probation.
Oh, it is just coming out. It's so you haven't necessarily,
You gotta look
okay,
at the law. It's
Right.
Right there on page 2.
okay.
So it's being crossed out. It is on lines. Where is it? I gotta put on my glasses, lines 10, 11, and 12.
Yep.
It's not a condition of their, it's not a condition of their sentence. It's not a condition of their release. Where crash would be a condition.
Right.
One, as Troy said too, is directly related and context to your offense, where it's an educational component versus just, you know,
You also got to pay your lawyer to defend you.
right?
unless you have a public defender,
Sure.
and then
Fair.
only conditional depends.
So the other thing too, that's a hindrance, and this is something that has been looked at for many, many years, and nothing came of it. It's so complicated. But a lot of folks who have lost their license for a variety of reasons,
Mhm.
suspended license, they have an accumulation of fees that they have to pay DMV in order to get the driver's license back. And for a lot of folks, that prevents them from getting their driver's license.
Mhm.
And we want folks who re-enter from an incarcerated setting to be successful. And they need a job
Mhm.
and they need transportation to get there. They also need to check in with their PNP office. They need transportation to get there. And if you've got these fees that are being charged by DMV for them to get their license back, and they can't make that, how successful is the person going to be? So that's another piece of the puzzle too. I just want to put that on the table.
When you look at that issue, right, I mean, obviously a driver's license is a privilege, but at the same time, if you're coming out of a setting where, and you need to have a driver's license to get a job, be productive, and you're doing everything you can to keep somebody out of reoffending, that cost is worth it, right? But, you know, you say, oh, I know this is certainly the opposite of what we're advocating for, but if you say we're not going to give you a license because you have these fees and the person can't go to work, where are they getting the money? More likely to reoffend, right? So some of those things are things that I think most of us would agree are worth the cost to make sure that we're helping people get on the right path and stay on the right path, and not setting them up for failure when they come out, which when they do fail again, costs them and society. So anyways, I support what you're saying. Sorry.
So where are we, folks? Check in with the probes to see what the hit would mean
Yeah.
for the budget for FY 27. And that will be determined on the effective date, whether it's July 1st of this year, July 1st, 27.
Mhm.
What's the general feeling of the committee supporting the bill?
Yeah, I've just got that qualifier,
The date qualifier.
the day qualifier.
Okay. So Kevin and Sean, why don't you reach out to Trevor?
Yeah, I
See
got it.
what we find.
I would reach out.
Outside of the effective date, are folks seeing anything else for language changes?
No issues?
Okay. Okay, we're good to go. As soon as we get that information, we'll revisit it. If you could do it today, would be terrific, because Kristen is coming back this afternoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Thanks for putting pressure on me, Kristen. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing, they gotta.
You can look up Trevor,
You're so good, it's not a problem.
find out.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, folks. We appreciate it. Okay, let's jump to another bill. Maybe we can get some of these bills out of here. That'd be good. Okay, we're gonna put John in the hot seat. John has a new draft for H50, which is this great bill that deals with inventory. I don't know if we have BGS out there, or probably nobody at this point.
Yeah, we're not on 2.1 anymore.
We have a new draft.
3.2.
There it is.
Wow, another one. Burning up some trees for this. There, Greg.
And John, you have sent a copy of this to both BGS and Commissioner Farrell. Have you heard anything back?
I have not, sorry, John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel. I have not, admittedly, they received this lunchtime yesterday, so maybe we expect, I will say that it, the way that I put this together, I wasn't in the room when Commissioner Farrell testified.
Right, but you saw the YouTube, right?
And so that's exactly what I was going to say is I went back.
It takes a while.
There we go. I went back and watched this both his statements and Deputy Commissioner Kosicki's statements, and this pretty accurately captures what they were saying. So happy to walk through
Oh,
the
good.
updates here.
Oh, it's here.
All right, I'm
Yay.
here.
You're here. Do you have any marching orders from your boss on this at all? Say yes or no. Okay, well, we'll have to schedule folks.
And to say that we are pretty comfortable with how the language is.
You are comfortable?
And I think that's what you'll see in section 2 is it's quite different, the relationship to BGS at this point in the draft. You can think of sections 1 and 2 as almost unrelated at this point. I mean, there's a tie, but it doesn't involve BGS. So section 1, we're in draft 3.2 of H50, which is your inventorying bill. Section 1 remains the same as it has been, so no updates to note there.
This is your BGS inventory, the information that goes into the space book.
Yep. And so you still have the language that was proposed long ago, that the head of each agency, as part of the inventorying process, would indicate whether any building is vacant and whether any land is unnecessary for state purposes. And then at the start of each new legislative biennium, Commissioner of BGS would submit that to the committees of jurisdiction, would submit the whole inventory, including this piece. I think we've also recently heard testimony that there are already some updates to the space book reflective of this fact. So that's what you're getting with section 1, no change against the prior draft. The real change is to section 2. And the way that I would think about this is while you now have a section that is dedicated to identifying land, property that is suitable for housing and that routes information to the appropriate department, the Department of Housing and Community Development, it leverages the inventorying process that each agency conducts for the inventory process in section 1. So it's basically inserting itself into the section 1 inventorying process. It's not necessarily going to be picked up in the space book, but it's saying when you're conducting this inventory, make sure you note this information and send it off to the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development. It's the plain English description of what is happening, but I'll walk through the actual language. So section 2 is on page 2, and it begins on line 13. Inventory of parcels for housing development. The inventory itself is conducted years 2026 through 2030. So this would pick up what has happened in this year, which is, I think, what I gathered from the testimony while I was out of the room. Yep.
So we're talking calendar year.
Yes,
Nice.
exactly. And it will make more sense once I get to subsection B, because there's a flow of information. There's the first inventorying process that's standard process that's going to BGS, and then this little bit of information that's going to GHCD. That's part of your inventorying process that's happening this year through calendar year 2030. But the impact for you guys, the whole reason you requested it, which was to have information routed to the legislature, those reports would come for each legislative session, 2027 through 2031. So they're picking up the information. So you're getting 5 counts, you're getting 5 updates reflective of the inventorying that happens through calendar year 2030. So I think that resolves the timing issue. And the discussion that I recall, or I witnessed during Commissioner Farrell's discussion, was that folks were relatively happy with the sorts of information that had been gathered during the executive order process. And so that would be picked up in the report that you would get at the start of the next legislative session. Exactly.
Sure, John, and so like, I actually haven't seen legislation reference an executive order before. It's a one-time thing, right? But, you know, it does exist.
Yep.
So using that criteria is fine, right? Yeah.
Yep. So I'm happy to talk about that. So I'll read through the subsection and then explain why I chose this. There is an alternative way to do this if you would like to do it, and that's also totally fine. So as part of the inventory that a head of an agency conducts pursuant to Section 165G, which is the section above, Section 1 that you've amended, as part of that inventory through calendar year 2030, the head of the agency shall identify and report to the Department of Housing and Community Development each parcel under its ownership that meets all of the screening criteria developed by the department
for executive order number 625. And so that's the executive order that we've been referencing. So this would be something that is familiar to those agencies because they've already received this instruction from the Department of Housing and Community Development. It's true that the document you guys looked at last Wednesday, I believe it was January 28th, I think that some of that had been prepared relatively recently, but was reflective of the screening criteria the department had developed. So there's two ways to do this. One is to put outright into this section the 4 listed screening criteria that are in that document that Commissioner Farrell provided. I first started to draft it that way, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this, and then backpedaled a little bit because one, while we can explain why that's included, and it's not hard to explain, I'm just thinking about the committee process itself. It raises the question, why these criteria? Whereas if you just say we're leveraging existing screening criteria, has a bit of a different feel. The other piece is it somewhat opens the door to folks wanting to amend the screening criteria. And if what you're trying to do is pick up exactly the information that they have received, that's why I propose doing this. I would understand an argument that says, is this clear to the agencies, right? Because we're not setting out in statute what those 4 criteria are. We saw them within a document that was presented to this committee. But my understanding from that testimony is that those are the screening criteria that the department issued to each agency that was holding land. And on that basis, made that determination. Exactly.
It's in this document, folks. Commissioner Farrell, so this, the 4 factors was the parcel's half acre or more. And the parcel doesn't have a conservation easement. The parcel is served by or potentially serviceable by municipal water and sewer. Or has an working on-site septic, and the parcel is reasonably accessible by an existing road, driveway, in it, or within a quarter of a mile of an existing road or drive. So those are the qualifications. So the question is, do we want to put those 4 bullets in section 2, or do we want it just referred to in terms of the executive order? What would the committee like to?
Yeah, I like the executive order. I think it ensures we're all speaking the same language. And, just like John's saying, we could shoot that downstairs, and we could get in this whole debate over the actual words here, whereas this points to what it is.
Okay, folks.
I agree with Connor.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's awesome.
I think it's a smart way to do it, John.
And I will just say that had I done it the other way, I would have slightly reworded things for clarity, which then would have led to a whole relitigation of the screening criteria themselves, which I don't think that he wants to undertake. So
Get comfortable.
Don't get comfortable there, Eric. This is your replacement over here, Cole.
well,
Madam Chair, I am not here in official capacity,
I know you're never, but we miss you.
only diminished capacity.
So Cole, he's so quiet.
I miss you guys too, that's why I'm here, and I apologize for the interruption, sir, that could be awful.
very upsetting. Burn off my game.
Saved you.
It's one that used to be in Cole's position with BPS.
That's where I sat too, actually.
Yes, you did.
Good spot.
So where are we with this version, folks?
So can I go through subsection B? Just so what we have here is we set out that as part of that inventory, and just to clarify again, I was careful to say that it's the inventory that the head of an agency conducts, because what I'm trying to get at is that include this in the process that you undertake for the inventory. This isn't information that needs to be in the inventory that you hand to BGS, right?
As part of the.
Exactly. So subsection B is the reporting that you're getting, and this is starting at the top of page 3. So on or before January 15th of each legislative session through calendar year 2031. So again, that's picking up the inventorying that would happen in 26 through 2030. You get the report the following legislative session. So on or before January 15th of each legislative session through calendar year 2031, the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development shall provide to the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions and the Senate Committee on Institutions the inventory of properties identified pursuant to subsection A. So that's all of those that have been identified by the head of each agency to meet screening criteria. A list of those inventoried properties the commissioner determines may be suitable for housing development, and an explanation of the commissioner's determination. So I did use some discretion in drafting this. My thinking was that I think in Commissioner Farrell's testimony, you could have understood it to be a more limited amount of information that goes to the legislature. It could just be a list of those inventory properties that the commissioner determines to be suitable for housing development. My thinking was that because the legislature itself might have questions as to why something was or was not included, that it would be helpful just to have that basic inventory. And then you'd have those that are identified as suitable, plus the rationale for their selection. So I think that gives the legislature more helpful information, and hopefully, I don't think that requires much additional administrative burden on the commissioner, because they should have the inventory to be making the determination in the first place.
So
That's what you determined in your legislation, Connor, wasn't it? Being that they basically took your bill.
So the report to the legislature would include all of those inventory properties that the heads of the agencies submitted to the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development based on the 4 factors.
Exactly.
So we would get that.
Yep.
And we would also get from the Commissioner what they determined to be suitable of those amounts for housing development, and an explanation why they would be suitable.
Exactly.
Questions?
Feels very clean, yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I think it's good.
It's good.
Like that.
So, and then the first part, section 1, you're comfortable with that? Make sure you read the language, folks.
Is it helpful if I go through this again?
Might
Very
as well.
quickly. Yes, because if we're at the point of voting this out, I'd like to get it voted out.
Okay. Sounds
It
good.
is, and what it is that the motion would be that we concur with the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment. Okay, we've already passed it through the House, passed it through the Senate. We didn't agree with the Senate changes. We changed that, so we amended that. And we added the piece about the inventory for the housing and community development. So this is the next step in the process, and the motion on the floor would be that we concur with the Senate proposal of amendment on H50 with further amendment.
Yep. So here you'd be voting on the report, and then on the floor, that would be the process. And it would read as you can see in the introductory language, while it seems sort of nonsensical because you're concurring in the proposal of amendment and doing a strike all to replace it entirely with what the House is proposing, but that's just the style that we use. So that would be the wording for the floor.
And James is the reporter.
Of which bill?
He's not doing it anymore. Yeah.
So section 1, which is your update to the inventorying process under Title 29, would require the commissioner of BGS to maintain an inventory of all state-owned buildings, and then it would add "and land," and shall annually compile and update that information under subsection G. And then subsection G, which is the information flow from the agencies up to BGS, is updated to move from upon request to annual update, which may be the regular process anyway. And then you've added on page 2, that as part of that inventory, the head of each agency shall additionally indicate in a format prescribed by the commissioner whether any building is vacant and whether any land is necessary for state purposes. And then you'd get that start of biennium report in perpetuity, unlike section 2, which is a time-limited set of reports related to housing. This is an in perpetuity report on or before January 15th of each new legislative biennium, commissioner to submit to the committees of jurisdiction that inventory. I think you may end up getting that annually anyway. But
Makes sense.
that is the bill.
So, Cole, for BGS, because I really would like to get this bill out. And we haven't heard back from Housing and Community Development. So I really want them to weigh in on this.
Sure.
But for BGS, you can officially say that the commissioner is comfortable with this language.
So we need Alex, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we
Okay,
gotta,
I'll talk.
I mean, I'm ready to vote this out. I think the
Sure.
committee is too,
Yeah, yes.
but I don't want to vote this out until we hear from the commissioner.
Hear you. You of course have practical alternatives, but I agree from like a respect perspective. Because of course you could hear after today, after having voted it and have an additional amendment to reflect it, but then you would have to bring that amendment back to the committee to poll the committee's view on it. And
What are you smirking in the corner?
Sorry, I'm just thinking about old reflexes from when I used to sit in here. It would be, I should be texting Alex going, turn on, you know, but. Yeah, my former.
Yeah, I mean,
You
Wait.
always used to wonder why people would show up at opportune moments, and it was because I was a mole.
maybe.
The truth comes out.
That's why you're not there anymore. Is there I would really like to get this out as soon as we possibly can. So if there's a way we could connect with Commissioner Farrell. Paul.
I can also follow up just on the email that I sent just to.
Yeah, it's just that like, I think it's okay. Well, we might be able to do it this afternoon.
Okay.
We can hear back from them. I really would like to get this kicked out. Possible. Then we have one less thing to have to worry about, because then I'll have to have some conversations with our counterparts
I thought we'd have time.
and figure out how they want it to be.
If you want to redo it, you want to.
So anything else, folks, on this? So if we could put some,
Alice, how did, James get to report it?
James was
I reported it last
the,
year.
he was the reporter last year. So carries it through.
Punishment.
You carry it through.
I was just thinking it should have been Connor because it was a pretty much a repeat of his legislation we put in this year.
But James was the reporter of the bill.
No, I do not remember, sorry, James.
Okay, I'm not very memorable.
Anything else before, yeah, we actually, hey, you folks have an hour and a half for
Whoa.
lunch.
Wow.
We don't have any last minute things we have to deal with, right? Anything else? John? Yeah, you can get in touch with her.
May I ask a question for 635? I just wanted to confirm I have the sole update you guys would like. That's the bill we just talked about, supervisory fees. The sole update is to move effective date to July 1, 2026.
Or 27.
7? Okay.
Waiting on how the $260,000 loss in DOC's budget's gonna impact on the FY.
Okay, so we're waiting. Okay.
So Kevin and Sean are gonna check.
Okay, so I'll wait to hear. Yep.
And speaking of that, Sean, you sat in on appropriations committee last Friday.
I did.
When DOC was submitting their budget.
I did.
And what did you learn, if anything? If any?
Hold on a second.
Seeing that we've got a few minutes. And that might help the 5 folks who are doing the budget. You were glad you were there.
I was. Well, they asked me a couple questions, which was helpful for me to be there. It was interesting to see that, DOC presented the whole, their big budget and went through the whole thing. with
Did they do the ups and downs, or did they do?
They
more
did.
of-
Yep,
Or they
did.
stopped?
They started to, and Robin told them she didn't need to do it.
Right.
And told them that they didn't need to do it. It was interesting. They were, what I think we all know this, it's kind of worth saying, but it was, they are, a few years back before Demo got here, they were at like 30%, not having enough people. They're up around 12%.
not having enough people.
Yeah, in
in staffing.
correction staffing.
Staffing.
So they still need another 12%.
That's correctional officers.
Yeah, of correctional officers, and that's heading in a good direction. They had 214 new hires in 2025, but they had a 25% ejection rate, meaning the people left after they got there and they were like, wow.
So
Anyway,
that's
Is there people out of the academy?
yeah,
Right out of the academy?
yeah, out of the academy, they go in, they're there for a month or 2 weeks or 2 months, and they're
Oh,
like,
it's in the
Did they
academy.
do an exit interview?
I don't know.
But they
Mary.
weren't hired. Well, they were hired, but they went through the academy and then they pulled out of the academy.
Mhm.
So they had 200 plus and a quarter of them left before they finished the academy.
Yes.
So you're down to 175, 150.
Mhm. Yeah, something like that, 160.
And then
yeah.
of those, once they start working in the facility, I wonder how many of those leave.
Right. Detainees are driving up the population in corrections. That kind of came out. We kind of heard that, but it was interesting for them to like come forward and say that. CRCF general population is 130, but there's 170.
John, we'll be in contact. So
Sounds good.
that you know.
Bye, John. Thanks.
See you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Nice to-
If you hear back from Commissioner Farrell, you can circle back.
Sure. I'll
Thank you.
see you.
Yeah.
The detainees are the pressure point right now. That's pushing everybody to the limit.
And what's the number again? 500 and what?
Well, in what?
Because that detainees.
Yeah, I think it's around 500, but just at CRCF, there's like, there's like 50 people who are detainees.
Madam Chair. Just heard from Commissioner Farrell, he's.
He's a go.
He's a go up for us. He's good for it. Like, he doesn't need to be here.
Well, we can do H50. Well, you're not going out.
And then, John, it was very interestingly, John Murad, who was there, really said like one of our main goals that we have right now is to build a new women's facility. I was like, and then the other note that I took away from it was, Robin was like, where were we at with WellPath per year?
Oh, God. So
She was like, is that
40 million,
yeah, she's like,
30 million?
wait a minute, what? She's like, it's 40 million
I
or
think
whatever.
it's around 40, 30,
Right.
36.
She's like, she was like, when I was in corrections, it was 16 million.
Yeah, she was in the.
Which wasn't that long ago.
No, that was
So she was
9 years ago.
aghast at how much that had risen.
Who was the contractor then, I wonder?
Oh, probably, well, it
Cool.
could,
Or
not Core Civic, it was very similar to. That we've gone through like 4 different contractors. But she
Yeah,
was
but
on,
that's
she
what-
was committee here in 2016, 17.
Folks, that's what happens when these projects get pushed.
Well, healthcare has gotten much more expensive and the
and
people are sicker.
one other note on parole is there's like 400 people absconding from parole, which I didn't know.
Parole or
Well, furlough.
furlough, it's really important to know the difference.
I think it was both. But they feel like if they're not finding them doing something bad, they
Let 'em
kind of
go.
just let it go. But I was like, huh, that's a new thing I didn't realize.
Yeah, okay, I think judiciary is looking at it.
Okay.
It's down, it's
That's it.
astounding.
I'm done.
astounding.
Businesses.
So that gives some indication of youth 5 that are working on the
That's helpful.
DOC that really do maybe find out more about WellPAD, find out more about why detainees, get a breakdown of detainees, because it's not all state detainees. They also include the federal marshals in that, and they include ICE. So get the breakdown, because I think for state detainees not coming in through the federal marshals, but coming in through ICE, I think for the state ones, it's probably about 450, maybe.
So are we voting H50 out of here?
Yep.
If you're looking at the motion's being made.
So if you folks can start working on that.
Yep.
Still haven't received the letter yet from Approach in terms of when our recommends are gonna be due, but I know it's gonna be due in probably 2.5 weeks. Before town meeting, because town meeting break, our last day here is February 27th. And then we have town meeting break. Okay, so let's shift gears to H50. So I would entertain a motion that we vote out H50.
Second,
You know what the drill is, you know what it says, right?
Yep.
Any-
So Connor,
Any further discussion?
all right.
Please call the roll. Got 2 people missing.
Yeah, Representative Casey,
Yes.
Representative Galfetti,
Yes.
Representative Greer is absent, Representative Hedrick,
Yes.
Representative Luno,
Yes.
Representative Minier is also absent, Representative Morrissey,
yes.
Representative Winter,
Yes.
Representative Sweeney, yes, Representative Bregwire,
Yes.
and Representative Chair.
Yes. Did you, Will?
I did, and they're both missing, so
902.
902.
So work with Tate, you've got to get this down to the clerk's office. It's a
Okay.
process to do this. And then this will be on notice tomorrow and up for action on Friday.
That's right.
On notice tomorrow and up for action on Friday. And I will have a discussion with our counterpart, give her a heads up.
It's been a long journey, this one.
Are we done? So we can start.
We're done. So for folks, we are back here at 1 o'clock. We got a full afternoon. And then have a nice lunch. We'll see you.